Life is going to change that quickly. I'm more inclined to have a system that we can refer to constantly, updated as we go along, accommodates new goals that we might have, and always be
This is WealthSmarts, where you will gain the financial capabilities and confidence to achieve the goals that matter to you. Now, here are your hosts, Richard and Matt.
This is part 2 of our Wealth Builder Scorecard, addressing the questions and the answers and giving some context around that. So without further ado, the second question of the Wealth Builder Scorecard is, do you have SMART goals? Richard, for people who don't know, what are SMART goals?
They have to be 5 things. They have to be specific. Okay? You got to name that goal exactly what it is. You actually have to be able to measure it. You can't be a wandering generality. It has to be a measurable goal. You can say, I want to have $1 million in investable assets at a certain point. I want to be able to retire at the age of 60, and I want to be able to sustain an income, an after-tax income of $8,000 per month for the rest of my life, increasing with inflation. You got to be that specific in your goals. So it has to be measurable. It has to be actionable. Because a goal without a system for fulfilling it is just a dream. It's not really a goal. You actually have to have a system in place. It's got to be actionable. It has to be relevant to you. So somebody who has a modest lifestyle and is relatively humble in their approach to life, and they don't need too much, and they want 5 million in their investment account so that they can produce $200,000 a year of spendable income, might not be relevant to them, right?
And I would add to that also, the relevant part is very important because you need to know your goals. You need to know what's important to you, and you need to not compare against what's important to other people because we're all different. We all have different goals. So
100%. And that's why I so much disagree when we see advertising out there that says to retire today, you actually need X million of dollars. Maybe you do. Okay. But that doesn't apply to everybody. Okay. And the goals actually have to be time bound. So you have to specify a time span in which those goals are to happen. And that's where your system comes into place as well. Right.
So there's a few number of responses that we have on our Wealth Builder Scorecard. The first one is just a flat, I don't have any specific goals. And what we know is when we don't have a destination, any path will take you there. So
Absolutely.
if you're not working towards anything, you're going to get exactly what you expect. Progress nowhere, unfortunately. So, Richard, any thoughts on not having specific goals?
What's the path of least resistance, isn't it? You don't have to try too hard to not have any specific goals. If somebody says, I think I'm okay, got a good job, and, as long as I got that job and I got my income coming in, I'll be fine. And I'll worry about tomorrow when tomorrow comes, right? The government will take care of me or whatever, I don't feel that particularly inspired if I imagine myself in that state. So it's kind of a point of no hope.
Yeah, and
right?
I would argue in this sense, like I truly believe that every one of us is actually made for more. Like we're actually made to
Yeah.
do more, something unique with our life because we are all unique. We all have all different unique goals. And part of life is uncovering what's important to you and what you're good at and that. So for the people who might not have specific goals, I truly believe that maybe we need to look into, hey, you actually have a specific purpose and you are uniquely good at a few things. It's just kind of it's like creating a sculpture. You kind of need to chip away at it until you find what's important to you. So as much as this might be a discouraged state, I want people to really believe that, hey, there's actually places I can go.
Absolutely. We don't want to get too woo-woo on this, but
Yeah, I know.
the fact is, you were made for more, right? Everybody
Yeah.
was. And the big question to ask ourselves is there more to my life? Okay.
This brings us to the next answer in the Wealth Builder Scorecard. Do you have SMART goals? Okay, here's the response. I have a number of goals, but they're not written down in any form. So there is a tremendous power to writing down your goals. I don't remember which study it was, but there's a 42% increase in likelihood to achieve goals by simply writing them down. So this feels like a very easy way to write down or to make progress towards your goals, to write them down first and foremost.
I think it was a Harvard study, wasn't it? Harvard Goals Research Study, 1953. There
There
you
we go.
go. Right?
There we
Yeah.
go. And I truly believe that there's something powerful about that action of just getting for what's in your mind down on paper into something that you can see in front of you. And if you want to increase your odds even more, always reference that goal, because whether you know it or not, your behavior will align to what you see all the time,
Yeah,
right? You
absolutely.
might not feel like it, but it's one of those
Well,
subconscious things.
I'll give you an example. And going back to high school, university days, whatever, the process of taking down notes. Have you ever spent a whole semester taking notes on something and then writing the exam, and you actually didn't refer back to your notes? But the fact is, the process of writing them down ingrained them into your mind. Even if you don't, now it's better to review your notes for sure, but even just writing them down and not reviewing them is a heck of a lot better than not writing them down at all. Right?
Very true, and that's been my experience. But I'm not going to give any studying advice to people, so that's not what we're here for. So yeah, it's very important to clarify your goals and write them down. So that's a very powerful first step. Now, the next response to this question is, I have specific written SMART goals and I'm happy with my progress. There's
Again, Matt, I think that's the easy button, right?
Yes.
Because you've worked really hard to get to that place and you're really happy with having arrived,
Hmm.
right? It's like you're going on a journey and you get to the place that you want to go, but there's a number of other stops before you get to your departure point again, and you stop at that place and you look at all the wonderful things that you're seeing and you're saying, yeah, I know there's a whole bunch ahead of me, but I'm really happy here. I think I just want to stay here.
Well
And
said. Well
well, that's
said.
okay.
And
There's nothing wrong with
to
that.
and we see this a lot too, in the fact of, like, when people retire
Yeah.
and they have no plans for after their retirement, we often see a quick decline in their emotional motivation, just because of so many different factors. I think the social factor is one that I'll go into now. Like, people don't think about that a large part of their social circle was at their work, and now
Yeah.
they have to find more social domains in their life. So that's kind of one very practical example that we often do see, is, unfortunately, when people retire, they hit that goal of retirement, they're happy retired. They unfortunately start to decline faster because there's no real purpose there, right?
We did a seminar years ago, and one thing we asked people to do is to do a practice retirement, like dedicate a piece of vacation time to going someplace. Okay, like rent a place somewhere else. It doesn't even have to be far away, and pretend that you are retired. And from day one of that vacation, and this is just a trial, from day one of that vacation, say, what am I going to do today? Okay, and it might be, I think I'm going to go down to the community center and I'm going to sign up for some volunteer time, see if they need any help with anything. It might be, there's a bunch of friends I haven't talked to in a while. I'm going to go schedule some coffee with them. I really miss the days that I did a lot of photography. Pick up that camera and go out there and start engaging in life the way you imagine it would go in your retirement, and do a trial run, and then do an after action scorecard, do an after action assessment. Military does this all the time after an engagement, an after action assessment, and ask a question: how did that go? Did I feel fulfilled? Is there anything else that I feel I should have done along the way to make this a better experience? And then use that to gauge what next might look like for you. Always
Mhm.
be looking at what's happened. How did it go? Did it go well? What are some things that I can do to make a better experience next time around? Right?
And so that level of looking back in progress and trying to always improve things is a really great transition to the last answer of to this question. I have specific written SMART goals, and I am continually evolving them as life changes. We always like to use this example of goals being the horizon. You walk towards your horizon, you're never going to hit your horizon. Your horizon keeps changing, but we need to also take time to celebrate how far you've come by looking backwards, right? So there's tremendous growth that you've actually had. You're never going to hit your horizon. It keeps changing. And
Yeah.
that's just like, don't be discouraged by your goals continuously changing, because that's just a sign of a growth mindset.
Absolutely. And it's why I'm a little bit reluctant to rely on a printed financial plan all the time. I think it's a good idea and to always be updating it. But that printed financial plan will change the moment that it's come off the printer. Like life is going to change that quickly. And I'm more inclined to have a system that we can refer to constantly, update it as we go along, change it so that it accommodates new goals that we might have, and always be reassessing, always be looking at how far have we come, what needs to change to move forward even more effectively, right?
Well said. Well said. You kind of wanted to talk about, without a system for achieving your goals, what actually happens?
Nothing. The goal is just a dream. You've got something written down on paper and saying that's a goal, but I haven't really, never mind taking steps. Like taking steps towards that goal is good, but it has to be a system that's designed to fulfill that goal. So give me an example of a goal that somebody might have.
Retire at 60.
Okay, so the system that I have to use is, the first thing is to establish a financial plan that's going to work that backwards. I have set a specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time-bound goal to retire at 60, and with $8,000, being able to fulfill $8,000 per month of spend. And I want that to last for as long as I live, leaving a healthy estate value of 5 million when I'm gone. Okay. Now that kind of nails all of the things, but if I don't take the step of establishing a financial plan that works it backwards to the point of saying, well, what you need to do is you need to, for instance, take all of the money that's just sitting in savings accounts and actually put it to work. Okay, that's going to be step number one. Or maybe reallocating the portfolio so it's more efficient and lower cost to you. There's less embedded trading costs and things like that. It might be, well, we've been putting all our money into a tax-free savings account and missing the opportunity to reduce income tax by putting it into an RRSP instead. It might mean, okay, we're putting 300 aside. Can we step that up to 500 per month instead? So all of these little micro changes, these may be small incremental changes that we put into place in that system. And then we install a system of every month, 500 is going to come out of our bank account. It's going to go in here. Every year, we're going to review this plan with our financial advisor and so on and so forth. So we're very purposeful in installing that financial planning system that is going to take us to that goal. Because otherwise, you don't do that. It's fine. All of those 50% of Canadians that say they have a financial plan, and 1/3 of them say it's in their heads, really, there's a third of Canadians that might have financial plans, but how many of those financial plans have a system built in to fulfill those goals that we've set? So, it's not just the system, Matt, because what you realize is that when you install that system and you have the goals in place and you're progressing along and you're moving towards that goal, something changes inside of you. You get this confidence that builds up, and all of a sudden you realize, not only do I have the goals, not only do I have the system installed to become a wealth builder, but your identity changes. And all of a sudden you can say, well, gosh darn it, I have this confidence that I have, and I not only am I striving to be a wealth builder, I am a wealth builder. We ultimately need to get that point of goals, install system, change our identity to say that I'm a loving father and a husband. I'm a valuable contributor to my society. I embody excellence in my workplace, and I am a wealth builder.
And you know what? A really good question to kind of narrow this identity piece is asking that whole thing of what would a wealth builder do?
Yeah.
And then listing out everything that you think wealth builders do, everything that we know wealth builders do, and start to act in accordance with that. And suddenly you create your identity as a wealth builder by doing those actions. You're
Yep.
becoming a wealth builder. It's funny, I'm relatively addicted to Peloton right now, and they always say they always say, like, what would an athlete do? An athlete would be on the bike consistently and training properly within a framework and eating, sleeping, all those different things. So by doing the actions of being consistent in trying to improve on the Peloton, I'm becoming an athlete.
Not only that, you are an athlete.
That is fair too. But at the same time, you need to, whoever you want to become, think about what they would do and start doing that. And then you're building evidence of you as that person.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that the state of identity where you are that person that you want to become, that's a state of confidence. And it reminds me of, again, something from Strategic Coach that I picked up. It's called the 4 C's of confidence. And that is that everybody wants to go on a different journey, a different pursuit when they have confidence. But guess what? The confidence isn't the thing that comes first. The first thing that you have to do is you have to make a commitment. So in this case, you have to make a commitment to becoming a wealth builder. Okay. The next thing that happens after the commitment is you have to take on some courage. That, okay, I've made a commitment, but starting off can be a little bit hard sometimes. So you have to have a little bit of courage. Those two are scary. Commitments and courage are scary. We like to see them in other people, but we very often don't want to take them on ourselves. But once you make a commitment, you take on the courage. Guess what, man? You get some capabilities along the way. You learn stuff. And lo and behold, you've made that commitment. You've taken on courage. You've learned a whole pile of capabilities. You're confident. The confidence comes after you take those other steps. So what I'd encourage people to do is I think a great step to becoming a wealth builder, to set yourself up on the wealth builder journey, is find out how you score as a wealth builder to begin with, and just take the wealth builder score. It's on our website, big orange button up top, wealthsmart.ca. You can see it in the notes down below our podcast. Click on the link, take your wealth builder scorecard. Nice thing is you'll get instant results within a few minutes, but you'll also get a downloadable PDF report. And then come back to it periodically as you go on the journey and see how far you're progressing.
Take the Wealth Builder score.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of WealthSmarts. WealthSmarts is a joint production between WealthSmart Incorporated and Lion's Den Media. Be sure to check out the show notes and our website for more information and resources. If you enjoyed this episode or found it valuable, consider joining the WealthSmarts community by subscribing and leaving us a review. Your support helps us make more valuable content and reach more listeners like you. See you in 2 weeks.